morning, everybody. It's Tactard Ted. It is Monday. I believe it's the 16th of October. Not totally sure. I'm a little unprepared. So, in case you missed it, Kiev got the living shit kicked out of it last night. In fact, it was so bad that even CNN had to report on it this morning. And they didn't show any of the actual missile attacks. No. I had to go to Telegram to get those and drone attacks. And there are tons of memes coming out of this, folks. Basically, the biggest horror in Kiev is to hear a guy mowing his lawn at 3 o'clock in the morning, and suddenly you realize it's 3 o'clock in the morning and it's autumn and lawns don't need mowing. Now, in case you don't get the meme, the Iranian technology, or the Iranian manufactured drones, and from what I understand, they're not even manufactured entirely in Iran. A lot of these are being produced under license inside Russia now. Russians are producing their own. These things sound like a lawnmower or a moped. That's why everybody jokingly calls them mopeds. In other words, Kiev got bloated up last night by a bunch of mopeds. So, and it sounded like lawnmowers. And they're about $800 a piece. So that means they're cheap, and you can let a bunch of them go. Now, interestingly enough, it doesn't sound like they just took a bunch of drones and said, here, go screw up Kiev. And the reason I say this is because CNN, who's going to report the absolute worst they can about any Russian attack, said that only 3 people were killed in the attacks last night. Now, I will tell you, from watching the various video coming off of Telegram, the stills and everything else, there were a lot of drones hitting their targets last night. And if only 3 people were killed, this means that they were very targeted, very precise, and very pinpoint, taking out the infrastructure. Now, I think it's really funny, CNN says civilian infrastructure. No, infrastructure that benefits the civilians in a city like Kiev is also going to benefit the military. The fact that you have coexisting infrastructure, in other words, the infrastructure for one is good for the other, makes it a legitimate target. So when they use these watchwords, civilian infrastructure, that electricity goes to the army base. That water goes to an army base. The soldiers are using that electricity. The soldiers are using that internet. The soldiers are using those communication hubs. And the soldiers are using those railways to get their Western supplied weapons. Now, it's really interesting, really kind of hypocritical. I hear all sorts of shit this morning about the Iranians supplying, and it's a travesty that the the Iranians, see, I just did a Joe Biden. Didn't he get Iranians and Ukrainians confused? Well, now we have to, because the Ukrainian military hardware is shipping up in Ukraine, but not on the Ukrainian side, and this is a problem. The same people who were touting the great American supply of HIMARS and all this other shit, they're the same people crying their eyes out about these fucking moped lawnmower fucking explosives that are showing up in Russian hands and being dropped on Ukrainians. Isn't that amazing? Hypocrites, right? Hypocrites. If it's okay for us to send supplies, then it's okay for the other guy to send supplies. I've tried to say it. If it's okay when our guy does it, but it's not okay when somebody else does it, you're a hypocrite. It's the same shit. I'll give you an example. It was okay for us to bomb the living daylights out of Serbia to get Kosovo or Bosnia or whichever breakaway bullshit it was away from Serbia. It was fine for us to do that, but no, we're not allowed to. We're not going to allow Russia to do the same thing when it comes to the oblast that broke away from Ukraine, the Donbass, and Zaporozhye and Kherson regions. But back to to the Kiev attack. It is mass pandemonium. I know that the Ukrainian government, it came out a few days ago, they don't want you putting anything on social media. But there are Ukrainians who are openly, willingly defying the Zelensky regime. They are still posting on Telegram. They're still showing the truth. And they're showing the guys out there with AKs trying to shoot down lawnmowers. I mean, that's really what this is, folks. Their air defense system is so bad that they can't shoot these things down. They've had to take aircraft up and try to engage these things. They're slow flying, low flying, and they're not very big. And this is a problem. The air defense systems that they have might work against larger items. They're not working against these, and these things are taking out Ukrainian air defense. It was amazing and incredible. The Ukrainians talked about that they had stopped X number of incoming missiles and aircraft this week. The big number that nobody's talking about is 80% of their existing air defense has been taken down. And it's been mostly taken down by these rudimentary drones, these basic flying bombs. This is really Hitler's V1 on steroids. And it's not that it's bigger and better, it's actually simpler and easier to use. It's low tech, and low tech often defeats high tech if the high tech is not prepared for the low tech. So, it's just one of those little things you have to laugh at. It's like commando units using crossbows because they're quiet, they're rudimentary, they're harder to detect when they're fired at night. That sort of thing. But, yeah, there we are. We'll see what happens the rest of the day. It'll be interesting to hear what else comes out. Darkness is rapidly approaching in Ukraine. We're a week into it with General Serovikin. Serovikin is obviously taking the fight to the Ukrainians. He's working their infrastructure pretty hard. Ukraine's in the dark. And I get it, folks. We're all modern people. We like running water. We like electricity. Well, we like heat. And Ukraine and a lot of Europe is going to be learning this winter what it's like to do without all that. It's doable if you put yourself in the mindset. I'm just not sure how many Europeans are going to put themselves in the mindset. Okay, here's my daily chore. Number one, let's get wood together and start a fire. Number two, let's look for something to eat. Number three, prepare for tomorrow. Number four, go to bed and do it all over again tomorrow, because that's what it gets to be when you have all these creature comforts taken away from you. I will tell you, it's interesting to hear certain people who I've not known to be people who prep or prepare, talking about storing things and how are you going to do this and how are you going to do that. How are you going to, is there a possibility that you can generate electricity for a couple hours a day? Is there a possibility that you can do this for a couple hours a day if you need to? I'll be honest with you. It's a good chunk of change to lay out for something that you may or may not need, but I'm looking at possibly buying one of these solar generating systems. This has been like a, what would you call this? This has been like one of those little special things that rich people buy for camping. We've got a solar generator. We can recharge our phones. We can do this. We can do that. One of these solar battery generators might be able to help you recharge a few things, do a few things that you need to keep going. And I'm not talking about charging your cell phones, because we're way too dependent on these little devices that I'm recording myself on this morning. And it might be better just turning the damn things off if it gets to that sort of a point. But I digress. So anyhow, folks, I will be having a look a little later this morning to see what's going on with Kiev, to see what's going on in Ukraine, and hopefully by the time I head to work this afternoon, I'll be able to hit you up with another video and tell you all the things that your news doesn't want to tell you. And like I said, I'm pretty happy that CNN bothered to report on this. They've been really kind of lackluster in the coverage of just how much damage the Russians have been inflicting on infrastructure throughout Ukraine. They've been really quiet. In fact, it was interesting this morning. I don't believe CNN talked about the rail junction in Kiev that overnight was taken out, or at least attacked and damaged severely. They don't seem to want to talk about that, because your HIMARS, ammunition, and any of that shit that might be on its way to Kiev property can't get there if there are no way to transport on rails. And I still think that the Russians really just need to go after the locomotives at this point. Don't worry about blowing up bridges. Don't worry about blowing up the train tracks. Those things are easily repaired. Go after the locomotives. They're not easily repaired, and they're not easily replaced. I believe I talked about that a couple of days ago in another video. Anyhow, folks, enough for me this morning. Got shit to do. Y'all take care. Bye.